This month on Connections. Our travels around Chicagoland begin in the heart of Chicago's Loop, at a theater where you can catch all types of movies, from foreign films to classics. The Gene Siskel Film Center is our first stop. Next, we'll tell you about the CTA's vision for meeting future service needs and what it could mean for customers. Then, the Red Line will drop us off in Chinatown, where you can experience Chinese culture in a whole new way at the Chinese American Museum of Chicago. It's back on the Red Line going north, on our way to a museum with a new name, and soon a new exhibit that will take transit fans for a ride back in time. We then step on board the number 70 Division Street bus and explore art and architecture all the way from the Lakeshore to Chicago's West Side neighborhood of Austin. Heading south on the number 85 Central Avenue bus, we come to our last stop, Columbus Park, where you'll find activities and fun for everyone. Spring is right around the corner, so get into the spirit and get out and explore Chicagoland on board the CTA.
Hi, I'm Dale Rivera. Welcome to Connections, where you can learn all about using the CTA in and around Chicago. It's hard not to get swept up in Oscar mania this time of year, but for film lovers in Chicago, there's a place they go to get swept up in great cinema all year round. The Gene Siskel Film Center is our first stop.
Seven nights a week, you can take in films at the Gene Siskel Film Center and enjoy everything from foreign films to documentaries to classics all under one roof. For more than 35 years, the Film Center has been drawing crowds. In 1972, it opened as part of the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, showing films in the school's auditorium as well as in the Art Institute's auditorium. Then, in 2001, the center moved to its current location at 164 North State Street in the heart of the Loop. With the new location, the center was renamed in honor of the late renowned film critic Gene Siskel of Siskel and Ebert fame.
Gene was often quoted as saying that his three favorite things about Chicago were Michael Jordan, the Film Center, and Mayor Daley. So we were in good company.
The Siskel Film Center often shows films that you might not be able to see anywhere else in Chicago. The center's goal is to appeal to a broad audience by selecting a wide variety of films.
We show a lot of international films, a lot of independent films, classics, silent films. Most of our films are part of a series or a retrospective or a festival. We look at our programming as being curated film programming, because it's very much like you would curate in a museum.
And it's the diversity of the films plus the atmosphere that brings in moviegoers.
It's kind of cozy, and the selection of films are excellent, really, to us.
Other star attractions at the Siskel Film Center are their concessions, which include espresso, beer, and wine, and their early March Oscar party, which is the only official Oscar party in Chicago. The center is also where you may see visiting celebrities or filmmakers who stop in for special events.
A lot of times you'll come here and the film will be introduced by the person who directed it or starred in it or wrote it, and then afterwards you can ask questions. So that's something that you're not going to find anywhere else in Chicago.
So whether you're a film buff or you just enjoy a night out at the movies, there may be something showing at the Gene Siskel Film Center just for you. It's served by a number of CTA bus and rail routes. Here's a look. So after a relaxing ride on the CTA, grab some popcorn and sit back at the Gene Siskel Film Center for a night at the movies that you're sure to enjoy.
Whether your travels take you to the Loop, the suburbs, or anywhere in between, the CTA can get you there. After all, with 222 miles of track, 7 rail lines, 151 bus routes, and connections to Metro and Pace, you can get just about anywhere you want to go. But the CTA is also looking at where its customers will want to travel in the future.
Establishing new transit service or expanding existing service is a lengthy process, which begins years in advance of actually seeing those plans become reality. The CTA must go through a number of steps to secure funding and to compare their proposed plans to others to make sure that what the CTA is proposing is the best alternative for the community and its residents. The CTA is currently conducting several alternatives analysis studies for proposed projects throughout its service area. It's a first step required by the Federal Transit Administration, which can take up to 18 months.
Basically, it means that we need to look at all the possible alternatives for that extension or expansion, not just going out and building a project, but looking at other alternatives to solving that problem.
That means identifying the preferred form of transit for each area by analyzing routes, station locations, ridership estimates, risk assessments, costs, schedules, benefits to communities and customers, and potential alternatives. An integral part of the alternatives analysis process is reaching out to communities that will be impacted by the projects and receiving their feedback.
CTA will work with local elected officials, community leaders, and community groups and local residents to host community meetings at locations near the affected area.
And those meetings are crucial to the CTA's planning process.
CTA really does rely on its customers and would-be customers to provide us with very critical information for how we might plan for the future. Not only on routine bus service that you use every day, but also on things like New Start projects that are for generations ahead.
As part of the process, multiple meetings are held within the communities surrounding the proposed projects.
We really do feel that by going out into the neighborhoods where we can talk with people about what might be important to them, what might be unique to their neighborhood, helps us really narrow down to what is truly the locally preferred alternative.
Community input goes a long way in helping the CTA plan service today and for the future. It's something the CTA has historically relied on.
We used it on the Douglas branch of the Blue Line to help us go through years and years of community input that got us to the point where we are today with actually being able to build the stations.
Several new projects are proposed for the CTA system. The proposed work is possible thanks to funding from the Federal Transit Administration's New Starts program and a new law passed by Congress called Safety Lou. Safe, Accountable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act, a legacy for users, which provides transit funding throughout the country through 2009.
The significant thing about the bill was that it authorizes 5 New Start projects for CTA, which will extend 3 existing lines as well as to provide additional service on 2 other projects in the region.
The proposed projects would benefit CTA customers throughout the city and suburbs. First, the Red Line. The extension of the Red Line south from 95th Street to 130th Street could streamline bus-to-rail connections for 13 CTA bus routes and 6 PACE routes, and could also connect customers with Metra's commuter rail. Another proposed project, extending the Orange Line from Midway to Ford City Mall, could improve access to downtown from the far southwest side and from the central city to the strong employment corridor along South Cicero Avenue. Also up for consideration, the extension of the Yellow Line from Dempster Street to Old Orchard Mall. This could provide access to many major destinations that are just beyond the existing terminal. And 2 new services that are proposed are the Ogden and Carroll Avenue Corridor Project, which combines bus rapid transit and streetcar transit that could serve the growing West Loop and provide direct access to Navy Pier. And a Circle Line that could connect 6 of the CTA's existing lines with Metra's commuter rail that serves downtown.
It would provide connection between all those services, allow more efficient use of the existing system, allow people to transfer more readily between CTA and Metro lines without having to come all the way downtown to make those transfers.
So how can you learn the specifics or voice your concern?
There will be opportunities for people to call in with their opinion, write in, go online to let us know what they think about what they're seeing. All of the proposals will be posted on the web as we go out with the community meetings. We will also post car cards on our system, as we do whenever we have public comment in public meetings. For CTA, customer service and outreach and community outreach really never stops. It's part of what we do every day.
It's important to know that the CTA isn't the only transit agency vying for federal funding.
We're competing nationally for the federal dollars to actually get these projects up and running. So even though a project is authorized by the federal government, that doesn't necessarily mean it will get the money to actually execute and construct the project.
That's why alternatives analysis studies are required as part of the federal funding process. If the CTA's proposed service plans turn out to be the best alternative for an area, the ball begins to roll.
Once the steps have been completed, then Congress, with the approval of FTA, can take the next steps and appropriate additional money to continue the further steps, to allow us to go into preliminary engineering, into final design, and ultimately into construction.
Should the FTA sign off on those next steps, it could then issue a full funding grant agreement, which guarantees the federal funding the CTA needs to begin construction, provided that the CTA has all of its non-federal funding in place as well. In the meantime, CTA customers should be pleased to know that their future needs are being considered.
It's exciting because it tells our customers, as well as the community in general, that we're interested in looking at ways of improving service to the community, of looking at these system expansions and extensions as a way of providing better service, not just in Chicago, but throughout the Chicago region as well.
Attention all CTA customers. Now is a great time to switch over to a Chicago Card or a Chicago Card Plus. Until March 31st, the CTA is waiving the $5 fee paid when purchasing an electronic fare card, meaning that you can simply sign up for a card and start reaping the benefits with no initial cost. One big advantage of using a Chicago Card or a Chicago Card Plus is the touch-and-go boarding system, which allows customers to quickly and easily pass by bus fare boxes or through rail turnstiles. The big difference between the Chicago Card and the Chicago Card Plus is how value is stored. With the Chicago Card Plus, you can manage your account online and decide how much value is to be automatically reloaded each time your balance reaches $10. If you prefer, you can use it as a 30-day unlimited ride pass. With the Chicago Card, you load it up at any of the CTA's fare card vending machines or at 65 currency exchanges throughout the area. The best news of all is that Chicago Card and Chicago Card Plus customers are not affected by January's cash fare increase, and you also get a 10% bonus for every $20 of value you add to your card. So remember, electronic fare cards are the way to go. They're convenient, and through the end of March, they're free. Another convenience for CTA customers are the park and ride lots. And now a new monthly parking program is being tried out at 3 of the CTA's most popular lots. During the pilot program, which began in January, the CTA is making monthly parking permits available for 15% of the parking spaces at the Cumberland lot on the blue line and the Midway and Pulaski lots on the orange line. A $43 monthly permit reserves a parking space for a customer until 10 a.m. daily. In addition to the permit, customers continue to pay the daily parking fees at each of the lots. The new parking initiative isn't only convenient for customers, it will also generate additional revenue for the CTA.
We're stepping off the red line at the Cermak Chinatown station and into a neighborhood where you can find more than just great restaurants. Chinatown is now home to a brand new museum dedicated to exploring Chinese culture. It's another fascinating place to visit the next time you step on board.
Step off the red line at Cermak Chinatown Station and you can now experience Chinese culture in a whole new way at the Chinese American Museum of Chicago. The Chinese American Museum opened its doors in 2005. And now, through July 15th, you can view its second exhibition titled Silk and Wood, which features artifacts such as this gilded wood lantern with hand-painted silk panels and this more than 100-year-old barber chair from a Chinese village. In addition, the exhibition features children's festival clothing with detailed embroidery.
We feel that this is a very unique exhibition. It's not something that's been done before, and it's small and it's easy to look at, and there's a lot of detail that you could look at. You could come back again and again and see something different.
Another thing that makes the exhibition and the museum unique is that all of the items were donated by the Chicago community.
We have people coming in and say, hey, maybe you want to take a look at what I have, and then that means old photographs, things that have been kept in the family for years, and sometimes it's just a nice piece of story, nice memoir of what they did in the past.
Chinatown's Wentworth Avenue was the home of the first ever Chinese American Museum in the United States, which opened in conjunction with Chicago hosting the World's Fair in 1933. But the museum closed in the 1970s.
After that, the community asked for another museum, and many people tried, but there are reasons that did not happen. So from 4 years ago, and some of the community leaders, and they said, well, let's have another go.
Hopes are now that the new museum will also serve as a cultural center for Chicago's Chinese American community.
Our dream, and the board of directors' dream, is really to turn this museum into a truly cultural center, community center, that people will be proud of doing things here with us and being able to show the history that we think that matters to us.
The Chinese American Museum is run by more than 80 volunteers, and it is the only museum of its kind in the Midwest.
We're very proud of this museum, and we're looking forward to it being successful. In May, we're going to open up the second floor, and which will give us an opportunity to have permanent exhibits, and will hopefully draw a lot more people into the community as well as the museum.
The museum is open Fridays from 9:30 to 1:30, and Saturdays and Sundays between 10 and 5. For more information on the museum, log on to www.ccamuseum.org or call 312-949-1000. Of course, the CTA can take you right to Chinatown. Here's how. So take a trip to Chinatown and check out the new Chinese American Museum of Chicago on board the CTA.
We're taking the Red Line north to Clark and Division. From there, you can board the number 22 Clark Street bus, head north a few blocks, and be within steps of one of Chicago's premier museums, where this fall, an exciting new exhibit made possible by the CTA opens. It's a piece of history that over a century ago was keeping the travels of public transit customers on the move.
The oldest existing CTA L car has made an historic journey from the CTA shop in Skokie all the way to the Chicago Historical Society. In September, the first L car, known as Car 1, will be center stage as the Chicago Historical Society celebrates its 150th anniversary under its new name, the Chicago History Museum. Following its $27.5 million renovation, the Chicago History Museum will be the place to go to learn all about Chicago. Visitors can enjoy the new Chicago Crossroads of America exhibition, which pairs the historic CTA car with the Pioneer, the first steam locomotive to arrive in Chicago in 1848.
We have a city full of L trains and L cars that are making their way around the city at any given moment. It's really a marvel of infrastructure. It's a marvel of transportation. It's one of the defining qualities of Chicago, and it definitely belongs front and center in Chicago's History Museum.
Car number 1 was part of the first L train to run in Chicago, pulled by steam engine on the South Side Elevated Line. In 1893, the car transported customers from Chicago's downtown to the World's Columbian Exposition on the city's South Side. In 1897, an electrical propulsion system and conductor's cab were added to the car so it could run on its own power with an operator. The L car was in service on the CTA system until 1930. Car number 1 was restored to its original style by the CTA in 1959, and since then it has served as a showpiece at CTA celebrations.
It's been restored over the years, but it has all of the charm and beauty and wonderful things that speak of its past.
At the museum, visitors will be able to walk right inside the car to see for themselves the turn-of-the-century features that make the car so beautiful, from the stained glass to mahogany wood.
The first time I saw it, I knew immediately that I wanted to go on it, and I knew that other people would have the same reaction. It's a visceral thing. It's like, I want to see this thing.
The job of transporting car number 1 to its new home was no easy task. Crews began by carefully wrapping the car at the Skokie shop, putting it onto a steel frame, welding the frame, and then lifting it by crane onto a transport truck. The L car was then driven from Skokie to the History Museum, a journey that took 4 hours. The final task was then for a crane to lift the 21-ton car into the museum, an unusual and rare sight for passers-by.
It was a huge project. We had to punch a hole in the second floor of our building, get it up to the second floor, have it pushed into the second floor, move through the building, make a very tight turn around a column, and it's now in position. And people are going to feel what it's like to share the excitement of the very first time the L was here in Chicago.
Car number 1 is on long-term loan to the Chicago History Museum from the CTA. So remember, beginning in September, you'll be able to experience the L from its earliest days in Chicago.
We're happy to have L car number 1. We feel very, very lucky that we're the ones who get to show it off.
After a good dose of history and a short bus ride south, you can embark on a journey filled with art, architecture, and books. Make the CTA's number 70 Division Street bus route one of your destinations.
Hop on board the number 70 Division Street bus and you can travel all the way from Chicago's Lakeshore to the edge of Oak Park. And you can experience everything from art to architecture along the route. The number 70 Division Street bus runs through Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood, and that's where you'll find an Italianate mansion, home of the Palette and Chisel Academy of Fine Arts. This ornate mansion was built just after the Chicago fire in 1874, and in the 1920s it became the Palette and Chisel. Today, students of all levels take classes here in drawing, painting, and sculpture. But what makes the Academy truly unique is that artists get the chance to work with live models every day of the week for a nominal fee.
I have people flying in from all over the country just to study here, and they don't believe me that something like this is available in Chicago.
The Palette and Chisels Gallery is open to the public, and new exhibitions are on every 2 weeks. So stop off at the Palette and Chisel and find the artist in you. Heading west on the number 70 bus, you'll travel right into one of Chicago's burgeoning neighborhoods, Wicker Park. In the 1940s, Wicker Park was predominantly a Polish neighborhood. And today, this is where you'll find the Chopin Theater. The Chopin Theater was revived 15 years ago, and while it mainly features Eastern European productions, it's also known for avant-garde and political theater. More than 500 shows are put on each year on the Chopin's 2 stages, but it is still where you will have an intimate theatrical experience, and afterward you can hang out at the coffee bar to discuss the production. In modern times, Division Street has been associated with Chicago's Puerto Rican community, and you know you've arrived in the Paseo Boricua district by the huge Puerto Rican flag that spans the street. Here, right on Division Street, is where you'll find Books Plus publications. For the past 28 years, this family-run business has been providing Spanish language and education books to the community and area schools. Here, it's all Spanish all the time, whether you're looking for children's books or famous autobiographies. Of course, the store's specialty is books about Puerto Rico.
One of our proudest achievements is that we're able to bring materials from the island and maintain the culture. We have several books that teach Puerto Rican history dating back from the 1800s. We've got a local high school here that picks up a lot of our materials and uses it in their curriculum.
Books Plus also brings in Latino authors for book signings. Near the end of the number 70 bus route is Chicago's Austin neighborhood. Once an entirely separate community, Austin became part of Chicago in 1899. Austin is home to some very early architectural masterpieces now designated as city landmarks, including 4 houses designed by the architect Frederick R. Schock.
They're really just a tour de force stylistically of the Queen Anne and shingle style, with all these little nooks and crannies and every little architectural feature that you could imagine.
Another landmark is the Hitchcock House, which was built in 1871 for Charles Hitchcock, an executive of a railroad parts manufacturing company.
It's one of the older buildings in the city at this point because it's pre-fire. It's a great Italianate house with all its original features intact, very unusual, especially for a wood frame house.
From the Lakeshore to Austin Boulevard and places in between, the number 70 Division Street bus will take you to some new sights. All you have to do is hop on board and check out the arts, culture, and architecture along the way.
We're stepping off the number 70 and transferring to the number 85 Central Avenue bus headed south, on our way to a place where history, fun, and beauty are all wrapped up in one spectacular location. Columbus Park is our last stop.
Recreation is the name of the game at Columbus Park, where there's something for everyone. Whether you like to run, play golf, or pump iron, you can find it all at Columbus Park on Chicago's west side. The park's goal is to serve the surrounding community, so it has organized programming for all ages, especially geared to school children and teens.
It's like a safe haven also. I don't have to worry about my teenagers being on the streets. They're doing something constructive. And some of the programs that they offer, you know, even help me out.
Columbus Park is actually a National Historic Landmark, as it is considered the masterpiece of the famed landscape architect Jens Jensen, who took special care in making sure the park's grounds were designed for community use. He even designed a 9-hole golf course. So this spring, grab your clubs and head to Columbus Park to work on your swing.
We'll tell you more about Columbus Park next month as we begin another journey around Chicagoland on the CTA. I'm Dale Rivera. See you in April on Connections.
For more information about the CTA or to use the RTA's trip planner, visit our website at www.transitchicago.com. Or for customer service matters, call 1-888-YOUR-CTA. For travel information, call the RTA at 836-7000 from anywhere in the Chicago area.